one.
You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Welcome to The Scrimmage. I'm Justin Domashevitz, producer Andrew Gross here with me. Daniel Hargrove, unfortunately, is no longer with us today, but he'll be back hopefully next week. Actually, Andrew, we need to have a production meeting about how we're going to handle next week because you guys will be camping.
Yeah, Daniel and I are definitely gone next week.
Okay, but I was told you would get home in the afternoon, so will we be able to record something in between the time that you guys get home and then the 3 hours span before you have to go to bed because you have to wake up really early in the morning?
I'm planning on taking that Monday off, actually.
Oh,
so
nice.
So it might be it might just be late for you.
Party.
Yeah, definitely.
No problem. I'm a creature of the night.
You don't really work until like late in the morning anyway.
I mean, if we're going to be honest, I don't really work that hard at all, so it's not really going to be a problem for me. Anyway, that was a good production meeting. Now I'll intro the show. We have some very exciting things to talk about because Mariners, wow, holy crap. Spoiler alert, I don't want to spoil the ending of what just happened in case you missed it, but cool things are happening in Mariners land. The Seahawks played a preseason game. We have local sports. We have local high school football to preview. Why did you laugh when I mentioned the preseason game?
I was like, well, you just ruined all of my you just spoiled all of my content on that.
Okay, yeah. That was, actually also mine. So there's that. But for now, I think the highlight of the show will be talking some local high school football. We don't have a ton to talk about because none of it's happened yet, but this weekend are going to be the jamborees that our local teams are participating in. So let's just go ahead and kick it off with a 2-minute drill.
Let's go, huddle up! Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball to the ref. Gonna do it right. 3 Jet Buckeye, don't worry.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
The Seattle Seahawks beat the Dallas Cowboys in a preseason game 22-14 on Saturday. Andrew, your thoughts?
There were no major injuries. That makes me happy. Other than that, I really don't have any thoughts. I didn't watch this game. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Will you read the next question?
No. Julio Rodriguez, Justin, your thoughts?
Julio is the man, breaking the record for hits in a 4-game span, 4 straight 4+ hit performances in a crucial stretch for the Mariners. Then he stunk today for some reason. All he did was hit a double and score a run. Not good enough, Julio.
SMH.
Not good enough. Julio Rodriguez, after having a decent but pretty disappointing start to the season, has been phenomenal for the last month and a half to 2 months. He is now the player that he is going to be in the future, and I think, Andrew, you summed it up perfectly. After this might have been a prophecy. After the first of the 4-hit games, which was a 5-for-5 game, you texted to our group, Julio is special again. And then he went on a historic tear after Andrew the Prophet foretold it.
I didn't foretell it. I just recognized it.
The Mariners. Andrew, your thoughts?
They may never lose again.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. They're on a freaking heater right along with Julio. I think Jeff Passan is the one that said it first earlier this season, but as Julio goes, so go the Mariners. And Julio is on a heater, and he's carrying the Mariners right with him, and everybody else around him is starting to play better too. It's exciting. Justin, the Yankees stink. Thoughts?
Few things give me more pleasure than the Yankees stinking.
Let's go!
Sorry, I misclicked.
If there's going to be a few misclicks throughout the course of this show, that is because when Daniel is not here, Andrew He has to step up his game a little bit. He goes from just being a producer who misclicks things every once in a while to being a producer and a co-host.
Yeah, I resemble that remark.
So it becomes difficult. Although, and we do have a full segment we're going to talk about the Mariners. So after the commercial, we're going to do that. And before we do that, we're going to do Stump Dandrew.
Uh-oh.
But I think it's just worth mentioning, Andrew,
Yeah.
your prophecy.
It wasn't a prophecy. I
was-
just recognized it.
Like you watched the game.
I didn't say Julio's going to go on an amazing run. I said, hey, guys, Julio's special again.
You did. It was simple, and it was to the point. And I looked at it, and I was like, all right, he went 5 for 5.
'Cause-
that's cool.
Because the crazy thing about Julio is he hasn't been bad. Even this, it wasn't just kind of disappointing. It was very disappointing through the first half of the season. But he even when he was slumping, he was average.
Yeah.
And we were having the conversation about whether, like, were expectations just too high for Julio? Like, we had such high expectations after one season, but now he's just an average player. And now he's special again.
Well, he went on a pretty long stretch there where he had a batting average in the 230s and 240s.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on pace for 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases, as Jerry DiPoto was very quick to point out on the radio that, hey, you guys think he's bad, but look, he's actually doing some good stuff. And then
He's still one of the better players. He was one of the best players on our team
right
in his slump.
And I think the thing that stood out to me the most about during the slump, which was a pretty significant amount of time, like
Yeah.
it was a good month and a half or so, 2 months at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But the way you guys, and I haven't watched a lot except highlights. I've watched a random game here and there. I don't have Root Sports, so I don't get to watch the games as consistently as I'd like to. But just hearing your frustration in how much he was striking out and the way that he looked at the plate.
Yeah.
And he's completely turned that around.
Yeah, he's hitting the
Even
ball
though-
instead of waving at the ball.
As recently as a few weeks ago, Daniel was still talking about how bad he looks at the plate. But I think it's the nature of a player like Julio who's capable of such greatness with the bat. Like, your expectation level gets raised so much. It's like, do you remember, you know, in the heat of the Legion of Boom defense, when the Seattle Seahawks were legitimately, historically, don't at me, the greatest defense in the history of the NFL, which I think can be statistically proven, although other people are going to argue about it.
Definitely the greatest pass defense in the history of the NFL.
I was annoyed when they allowed a first down. Like, when you'd watch those games, and I'd be like, it'd be like
completion.
3rd and 3, and they'd allow a 4-yard completion, and I'm like, what the heck, guys? This is unacceptable.
How do you expect our team to score if you don't give them the ball inside the 20?
Exactly. So the story of this season for Julio is he's great again. The story of Julio's career is going to be managing expectations and whether he'll be able to live up to the lofty Ken Griffey Jr.-like goals that as fans, as a collective group of fans, we have set out for him.
That record that he just broke, that 4-game hitting, the record for the most hits in a 4-game stretch.
Yeah.
That was, he broke a record that has stood since 1926.
That's crazy.
Which, and I'm not a baseball historian. I feel like Daniel's more in tune with that stuff, but that was at least one era ago, right?
Yeah.
Like that's insane to me.
Agree.
That was a completely different game that was being played at that time.
And there was one game in there that went 10 innings, I think. It's not like he's getting 8 at-bats in some 14-inning games. Like, he was going
Yeah, that's fair.
5 for 5, 4 for 5, 4 for 6. You know, it was like he probably got out
Crazy.
4 times, I think, across those 4 games.
Last night after the game, I think I don't remember who was interviewing him after the game, but they were like, "Are you surprised when you strike out now?" And he was like, But I liked the thought of like,
Well, no.
oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Normally I hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he struck out twice today, so
Yeah, he's remembered.
he's actually pretty good at striking out, like, overall. But I'm going to share the stats from this graphic that I don't remember if you or Daniel shared this to our group chat, the one about Julio versus the Yankees.
That wasn't me, so it must have been Daniel.
Okay, so across that 4-game stretch
yes.
that Julio broke the record with 17 hits, those 4 games, the Yankees also had 17 hits as a team. Also only scored 4 runs. Julio scored 5. Also, the Mariners had 4 wins. The Yankees had 0.
Julio had 4 wins.
Exactly. And Julio had 5 stolen bases, and across those 4 games, the Yankees had 0. So over those 4 games, Julio himself, and it's a funny comparison because it's not like they were playing each other. And the discussion that we had in our group chat afterwards was like it's the Yankees. Like, how is that relevant, or how is it any more cool? Like, and in my mind, it's amazing because it's the Yankees. It would be cool if it was any team. Like, it'd be cool if it was the A's. The A's are a dumpster fire. It'd be cool if it was the Royals, or the Tigers, or whatever the worst teams in the league are. It's cooler because it's the Yankees, not because the Yankees are good, but because they're the Yankees. Like, that made it so much more fun. And then I get to text it to my Yankee fan friend Francis, who's like, oh yeah, well, the Mariners usually stink. And I'm like, hey, I'm dwelling in the present, not the past.
Well, I don't really start watching baseball until October.
Yeah.
That won't work out for him.
He slapped
He's going to
me.
be confused when it gets to October and the Yankees aren't there.
He slapped me with man, I can't remember the last time the Yankees were under 500. Don't the Mariners do that kind of a lot? And I was like, shut up, Francis. But yeah, over that 4-game stretch, Julio was better in wins, better in runs, way better in stolen bases, and exactly the same in hits as an entire team, which is the most successful team in Major League Baseball history.
Also, one of the highest payroll teams, aren't they? Aren't they like?
Yeah, they're like third, I think is what we figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Yankees suck. Let's move on to my favorite part of the show.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
This will be Stump, not Andrew, because maybe it's better if we don't change the entire name of the segment, right? So we'll still start it with Stump Da, like Daniel, but we'll go Stump Dandrew.
Well, my brother's name was Daniel as well, so there was probably more and Daniels because I'm older.
Yeah.
But I respond to Dandrew.
When you were a kid, your parents called you by the wrong name a lot.
I don't think a lot, but there were 5 of us. So.
Oh, I had only sisters, and I still got called the wrong name all the time, like constantly. It was good though, because like sometimes my parents were so used to scolding me, and my older sister never misbehaved. So every once in a while, like I feel like the rare occasions that she got in trouble, they would accidentally call her Justin because they're just so used to only scolding someone by that name.
That's perfect.
Anyway,
I love it.
Stump Dandrew is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. And Dandrew, I really legitimately almost just called you Dandrew.
See, that works.
Andrew, I thought since we are in the game of previewing high school football season, we'd play a little game of which team does this guy play for? So I have in front of me...
High school football?
Yes.
Version? Oh, neat. I will be so bad at this.
All of these are players. All of these are athletes that you've definitely heard their name before.
Okay.
And I feel like there's some Aberdeen kids in here. You've got connections there. You might know them.
Okay.
All these players.
Don't say that now.
All I'm saying is Aberdeen kids, Andrew should know who you are, and if he doesn't, you should be very offended.
Well,
So
you should have a poor opinion of my ability to remember you for sure.
Okay, so all of these, and honestly, I would go 10 for 10 on this list. Daniel would go 10 for 10 on this
Oh,
list.
that's not.
So we'll see
surprising.
what our producer Andrew can do here. All these players are they're from the big 4 schools in our area. So Elma, Montesano, Aberdeen, Hoquiam.
Okay. So a 25% chance.
First one, Daniel or
Dandrew.
I'm just gonna go with Dandrew. I feel like it'll be easier. Carter Studer, Andrew. What school does Carter Studer play for?
This is not good radio.
I like it.
I do.
I like letting the tension build.
I don't think I recognize that name.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess Elma.
Carter
Because
Studer.
The reason I'm guessing Elma
Okay.
is because I feel like I'm more likely to have heard the names of Montesano, Aberdeen, or Hoquiam athletes because Daniel's from Hoquiam and you're from Montesano and I'm from Aberdeen. That's
Carter
my theory.
Studer. Carter Studer is the quarterback. I believe he was all league last year. He's the quarterback for the Elma Eagles. So you're 1 for 1. You nailed it. You knew it.
I knew that. Yeah,
You had it
definitely
right
knew
off
it.
the bat.
Definitely knew it.
Next name, Andrew, Tyler Johansson. What school does Tyler Johansson play for?
Johansson. Sounds Dutch.
He's a tight end and a defensive lineman. Real big, real strong.
Shoot. I recognize that name, but I do not remember who he plays for.
Okay.
I am going to guess Montesano.
Tyler Johansson is a senior at Montesano High School. Andrew, you are 2 for 2. And your knowledge really shows.
Yes.
In the 2 for 2. Next name, Andrew, Dandrew, is Marcus Hale. Dandrew, what school does Marcus Hale play for?
I don't know this one either.
Oh no. You didn't know the other 2, but you also got those ones right.
Yeah.
Somehow. Makes me wonder if you're cheating.
I recognize you can see that I'm not controlling the computer. I recognize
Well, I can't see the computer of your brain.
yeah, I'm cheating by looking things up in the computer of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just called trying to remember, Justin.
Do you have Google in there?
No, I do not yet.
Do you have Ask Jeeves? Alta Vista? Spider? You remember the Spider search
Yeah.
engine? Yeah, that was a good one.
I'm guessing Hoquiam. I don't even have a good I don't have a good reason for guessing Hoquiam, but I'm going to guess Hoquiam.
Well, you got your first one wrong.
Oh, shoot.
Marcus Hale he was all league last year as a tight end for the Aberdeen Bobcats. So you've officially failed.
I'm sorry, Marcus.
Your own school. Marcus Hale, ton of potential. All league. I don't remember if it was first or second team, but he was all league. I think it was second team as a sophomore. So he's coming back as a junior this year.
Oh, that makes. At least I didn't coach him.
I think one thing to look out for with Marcus too is I don't know. He was playing tight end, but they had so many backs at Aberdeen. I think he's a guy who might be really good with the ball in his hands, and it'll be interesting to see what Aberdeen does with him this year.
In theory, you should be able to get the ball into a tight end's hands.
In theory. Next name, Xander Jump. Xander
Jump. I don't know Xander at all, but I do know Jumps.
Okay. Where do Jumps live?
The Jumps that I know live in East County.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's where they came from.
I know the Jumps that you're thinking of, and I actually think that the Xander Jump family is not related to that Jump family.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
But I'm wrong all the time, so who knows?
Yeah, I played for a year on the Bearcats with a Jump.
Yes, and there was a Jump who was a photographer that took a lot of pictures.
That's right.
Yeah.
His daughter was a photographer. I'm going to guess Hoquiam again.
Hoquiam is correct. Good job. Xander Jump is a wide receiver and a cornerback going into, I believe, his senior season for the Hoquiam Grizzlies. Next name, Andrew. You're 3 for 4, impressively. Next name is Jackson Wilson.
Jeez. You did really good picking names that I don't remember.
It's really funny because I feel like all the names that I picked are the players that Daniel and I talk about the most. But
I wouldn't even argue with you.
Okay.
I just you talk about a lot of names.
It's true. Wait, you don't listen to the conversations when I talk about who might be the backup cornerback at Montesano High School?
I do listen, but names don't stick in my head very
because that's not Jackson Wilson.
And especially when I don't actually know the people. Can I get the name again?
Jackson Wilson.
Okay.
Jaxson.
Oh, geez. See, if I would have read it, I would remember it.
Jackson.
Yeah. I'm going to guess Montesano.
Jackson Wilson will be under center as a quarterback. He also plays like a blood rover spot on defense.
That tells me that it's probably Montesano.
For the Montesano Bulldogs. And you are 4 for 5, despite saying that you didn't know any of these names, but somehow you got 4 of them right by Googling it in your brain.
I am a good test taker.
All right. Ask Jeeves.
I never thought that would come in handy this far into my life.
Ask the Jeeves in your brain about this one. Paul Baltazar. Andrew, what school does Paul Baltazar play for?
That name I recognize.
Okay.
And I don't remember where he plays.
Oh, no.
Baltazar.
So far, your deductive reasoning skills have led you to 4 out of 5 correct.
Baltazar is a really cool name.
Yeah.
It makes me think of, like, Assyrian kings.
He does
like
not play
Nebuchadnezzar.
for Assyria.
Wait, Nebuchadnezzar wasn't Assyrian, but he doesn't play for Assyria.
No.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Shoot. Does he play for Aberdeen?
Final answer?
I asked you. Yes, that's my final answer.
I'm going to give it to
Aberdeen.
you. That was a little sketchy
Aberdeen.
what you just did, but Paul Baltazar does play for Aberdeen. So you're 5 for 6. He'll be a senior this year, plays offensive and defensive line.
Okay.
One of the best players on their team should be an anchor for them. Here's the next one. We got 4 left. You're 5 for 6. I'm very impressed. Aiden Butcher. Andrew, Aiden Butcher.
I know an Aiden that played for Aberdeen, but he graduated. I think. He definitely graduated.
Aberdeen also has an Aiden that didn't graduate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There must be a lot of Aidens in it. Yeah. Butcher. Aiden Butcher.
You might remember him from our Scrimmage all-defensive basketball team.
Oh, he's a basketball
on
player.
which I believe he was first team. All-league defensive team. Selected by Daniel, me, and the coaches of the league.
Oh, shoot.
Well, a few of the coaches of the league.
Does he play in Elma? I'm guessing that he plays in Elma.
Ooh, I'm sorry. That is not correct. He's actually a Hoquiam Grizzly.
I should have trusted my gut.
You're 5 for 7. 3 left. Felix Romero is the next name.
That's a...
Of soccer fame as well. Very good soccer player. Also good wrestler.
Yeah. Feel like I'm losing it here. I don't have a good... I do recognize that name, but I don't remember what team he goes with. Felix Romero. I'm going to guess... See, now I'm all inside my own head and everything. I'm gonna guess Hoquiam.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is not correct. You're now 5 for 8, and you're spiraling. Felix Romero will be playing
spiraling.
linebacker and kicker for Montesano this season.
Oh.
I think he's also a backup quarterback, but don't quote me on that.
Oh, okay.
Aiden Watkins. You got 2 left. Aiden
Watkins plays for Aberdeen.
That is correct. Aiden Watkins does play for Aberdeen.
I know Aiden.
You're 6 for 9. You got one more. I didn't set any parameters at the beginning, but I'm going to say if you get this one wrong, you're in the Husky zone.
That is, if I get it wrong, I'm in the Husky zone.
Yeah.
So
that means you're
in the Big Ten.
Then you're in the Big
12,
10.
Yeah, Big 10.
If you get it right, you're basically an independent. You'll be a Coug. Do you want to be a Coug?
Yes, I am a Coug.
Gabe Bodwell.
Don't know.
Andrew, what team does Gabe Bodwell play for?
I don't know. I Gosh darn it. I haven't known. I'm glad I
Summon
knew.
everything
I'm
you
glad I
know.
knew Aiden Watkins. I knew one of these.
Summon everything you know in your brain about the way I would structure questions and deduce by logical reasoning and asking Jeeves what school you think Gabe Bodwell goes to.
No. I'm going to guess Montesano.
You are in the Coug zone, my friend. Gabe Bodwell, fullback and defensive end for Montesano High School. And we are going to talk
That's
some more.
really that was that 6
Seven?
or 10?
You got
7
7
10?
out of 10.
7 10. Okay.
You had
I still feel like
one-
that doesn't really deserve to
You
be the
had
Coug zone.
one really bad stretch in there, but besides that, rock
Oh
solid.
wait, because the top would be the Beaver zone. Because this is Stump Dandrew.
Yeah, Dandrew.
So I didn't actually. That was all strategic. I didn't want to answer too many questions correct and end up in the Beav zone.
Yeah, because then you would be an independent school that you're not interested in being a part of.
Yeah, well, I like them, but
Okay.
I like them as a rival, not as a team I root for.
I like them too because I like it when Daniel's happy.
Yeah,
I have no
Yeah.
real rooting interest in the Beavers, except that, it's fun when the Beavers do something cool because they usually stink at most things. So, like, when something good happens for the Beavers, it's really easy to be happy for Daniel.
I feel like they've been really good at baseball.
That's
like,
true.
Consistently.
That's true. But I was trying to do a thing where we, make fun of the Beavers, and then you kind of...
But honestly,
Ruined it.
name a college sport that's less relevant.
Is curling...
I don't know if that's even a college sport.
Interesting. Well, we have some local sports stuff to talk about. We do have to name an athlete of the week, and we are also going to dig into some
Daniel's
more...
going to be mad at me for that.
We're going to dig into some more Mariners stuff. He won't listen probably, so you're okay.
Oh, good.
We're digging into some more Mariners stuff, but first let's take a quick commercial break.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Damashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Damashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit damashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
The Scrimmage is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz. Andrew Gross, our producer here, also playing co-host with me today, and I'm Justin Damashevitz. And Andrew, I have a question for you.
I have an answer for you.
If somebody... today's Sunday. Okay,
The
so
answer is yes.
pretend that it's Saturday.
Okay, I'll pretend it's Saturday.
Okay. If somebody said to you, next Wednesday, what does that mean to you?
That means the very next Wednesday. The next Wednesday to happen.
So wouldn't that be this Wednesday?
That would be this Wednesday as well, yeah.
So this Wednesday and next Wednesday mean the same thing to you?
On Saturday, absolutely.
What if it was Monday?
If it's Monday, this next Wednesday I would probably want clarification. I would assume that it meant next week's Wednesday.
Okay.
But I would be like, do you mean next week or this week?
My home is split on this because we had this conversation yesterday, which was Saturday.
Yeah.
And myself and my son, my 13-year-old son, or 14, oh my gosh, he just had a birthday. My 14-year-old son both believe that this Wednesday refers to the Wednesday that is next to happen, regardless of where you are in the breaking of the week.
I would agree with that.
Okay, but
This Wednesday means the very next one.
So, but you're also saying that next Wednesday, if the week hasn't changed over yet, next Wednesday also means that.
Yes, I would say I would interpret any time after Wednesday, but before Monday.
Okay.
I would think of like next Wednesday as being like the next week.
Do you consider Sunday or Monday to be the start of the week? Because if you consider Monday to be the start of the week, calendars everywhere will disagree with you.
Yeah, I start my week on Monday.
Okay.
I recognize that doesn't agree with the calendars, but I also end my weeks on Saturdays, so Sunday's just like an empty day.
So to me,
And I end weeks on Saturdays because entirely and only because of the UPS vacation scheduling system, which you schedule it based on the week ending Saturday, whatever.
So to you, Monday is the start of the week, Saturday is the end of the week, and Sunday is a floater?
I guess so. I hadn't really thought about this beforehand.
So Sunday is like
Sundays,
a bit of a nebulous, like it's
Sunday is when I record the scrimmage.
Yeah. See, I like to think of Sunday...
And have family breakfast.
I like to think of Sunday as the start of the week because, hey, what better way to start the week than with the scrimmage?
Yeah, sure.
But I contend that this Wednesday should always refer to the next Wednesday that's happening. And even if it's a Saturday, if somebody told me next Wednesday, I would assume that it was the Wednesday after the Wednesday that was coming.
So, yeah, I guess to me it is next Wednesday in the period of time between Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Next Wednesday is ambiguous enough that I would want to if you told me just like this is happening next Wednesday and it was something I needed to be ready for, I would need to clarify, okay, do you mean this week or next week?
You have approached this from a very logical and practical standpoint. And I appreciate that, but it's not what Daniel would have given me. Okay.
I'm sorry for being a good communicator.
Before we get into Mariners, I need to tell you something that I did yesterday, and I want you to rate it on an obnoxious scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
So I was having a conversation with my wife, and it started with, hey, we've been seeing a lot of spiders around the house lately. And I was like, yeah, I've seen 10.
No,
and she was
that's the worst.
She was like, yeah, I've seen 20. And I was like, oh, I think last time I counted it was 55. And then she was like, no, I've seen 80. And then at some point I was like, you know what? I've seen 1,000 spiders because I couldn't not win. Then that's not.
So when she said 80,
yeah,
she was definitely engaging with you in the obnoxiousness.
So then
I jumped
to 1,000.
Right.
Like we weren't even at 100 yet, and I jumped to 1,000. Then she said, "You wouldn't count to 1,000." So do you know what I did? Andrew, you've known me for a long time. You've known me for a long time. Did you
count to 1,000?
I counted to 1,000.
Out loud?
Out loud.
How long did that take you?
My wife said it was 10 minutes. I think I did it faster.
I feel like she won that.
Well, if you had asked her, she definitely did not win. Because the first thing she said when I finished counting to 1,000, which I did from beginning to end without stopping, out loud, despite the fact that my wife and my daughter were both trying to get me to stop, not only by asking me and pleading with me to stop, but also doing the thing where, you say different numbers. Like, I was at 55, and they were like, 12, 16, 22, like that, trying to mess me up. Yeah. Didn't work. I got to 1,000.
How can you tell?
And she said, that's 10 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Andrew, rate the obnoxiousness level of that.
I think that was pretty obnoxious. I would give it a 9.5.
Wow.
I will say, I don't think that your wife dealt with it quite right because she should have filmed it.
Okay. That's a good point.
Because I want to be able to see it and make fun of you counting to 1,000.
Isn't it interesting though that the level of obnoxiousness that she deals with from me on a regular basis?
It is.
So in her mind, yeah, that was really obnoxious, but that wasn't I'm going to record it level obnoxious.
Well, see, to me, you're the one that lost 10 minutes of your life. She gets to spend that 10 minutes laughing at you. And making fun of you.
I was the victor. She said I wouldn't count to 1,000, and I did. I won that. She said you wouldn't do this, and I proved that I would. I came out of that victorious. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
What's up, chicken butt?
Okay, let's talk about some Mariners stuff. So, I know I love the way that you answered the Mariners question, which was that we may never lose again.
I just like that.
Well, it's a fun thing to say.
It's a fun thing to say when you're on we're on a 5-game. The Mariners are on a 5-game winning streak, and it's I don't know. The Mariners may never win. They may never lose again. So now, realistically, I recognize that they're going to be playing the Royals again, I believe, in the near future, and they'll probably lose to them. Well, and it will be how did you just beat How did you just sweep the Astros and now you're going to lose to a terrible team?
Well, their next series is the White Sox. And the White
Another
Sox
terrible
are
team.
terrible.
Yeah.
So I was really disappointed when we had Sean on last week because the Mariners had been playing so well, best team in the majors, and then they lost a series 2-1 to the best team in the American League, the Orioles, and then we were all so upset.
It felt bad.
We went real gloom and doom, and then since that they've won 6 games in a row.
We probably shouldn't change anything then.
Well, I don't know. I felt like in the moment as we were doing that with Sean, like talking about how frustrating it was. I guess it was also the way they lost, not being able to come up with situational hits in extra innings. But I felt a little bad in hindsight looking at how we just kind of destroyed how bad their offense is, blah, 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 all this stuff. They needed other bats. John Stanton is a Porzy who doesn't have enough money to successfully run a baseball club. And I just went soccer. I called it a club.
Oh, yeah, you did.
A baseball team. So the Mariners now, and even then, were playing really well.
So
They're the best team in the majors, and as I'm looking at where they are in the wild card and where they are in relation to the Astros, they're half a game up in the wild card on the Blue Jays. They're half a game back now after sweeping the Astros, but I say screw the Astros. They're like 3 games back of the Rangers.
Trashtros.
Division time. They're going to go out and win the AL West and march their butts all the way to the World Series. Sky's the limit.
I'm not predicting that, but I am
Hit me with a prophecy.
so happy that that's still within reach.
Yeah.
That's what to me, that's what's so cool. Like it was a frustrating, disappointing first half of the season, but through all of those games where, like Daniel was saying several weeks ago now because the Mariners went through more than half of the season without ever having a losing or winning streak longer than 4 games, I believe.
Yeah.
They
were overwhelmingly average.
They were so average.
Yeah.
But you know what? At this point, and hopefully going forward in this season, we can look back at that and think, you know what? At least disappointing and frustrating was average instead of terrible.
Like the Yankees.
Yeah. At least they weren't digging themselves an actual hole. They kept on trying to dig themselves a hole and then trying to dig out of it and then trying to dig themselves another hole and then trying to dig out of it. But they stayed within range.
Yeah.
And now, at the end of the season, they're not out of it. And when they start playing well, it's not like, oh, yeah, great, you're playing well now and you're 20 games behind. It's like, oh, hey, they just won 5 straight. Is it 5 now?
6 now.
6 now.
Yeah.
6 straight, and they're in a wild card.
I am now seeing other people, whether it's in our text group or whether listening to the post game on the radio on my way here, everyone's looking at the division now. So
Yeah, because all of a sudden you are in the wild card.
But we were all holding our breath after yesterday's win over the Astros, going, if you could sweep the Astros, something special is happening.
Yeah.
And as soon as that 1-run victory was in the books with a fly ball that Julio caught in center field, collectively Seattle fans everywhere.
This was almost a struggle too.
Yeah.
Like both teams went deep in the bullpens.
Yes, because Hancock left with a shoulder injury
Which sucks.
after 2 innings, which totally stinks. And then I can't remember the name of the pitcher that came in and let up 5 runs. Bullpen arms are always in my head.
I'm not going to guess a name. I think I remember the name, but I'm not going to.
It starts with a C.
Oh, it wasn't the one I was thinking.
Okay. Anyway, I think there was a moment where, like, in my head, I kept going, man, forget the wild card, forget passing the Astros. The Mariners are going to win the division. And I thought in my head, like, wow, that's going out on a limb. I don't know how many people are going to disagree with me.
Yeah.
I'm being ridiculous. And then all of a sudden, they're talking about it on the post game. And I pull up social media, and it's on social media. I get a text in our baseball group chat from somebody saying, the Mariners are going to win the division. It's happening, baby! You keep looking over your shoulder, Rangers, because that's going to slow you down, and the Mariners are going to draft. They're going to be right behind you, like using the wind resistance off of you to break the wind. And I don't mean fart, I just mean break the wind. And then at the moment when you look over your shoulder and it slows you down one tiny little bit, zoom! Mariners are going right past you.
Did you just out yourself as a cycling fan?
I thought that was a NASCAR thing.
Oh, yeah, it's a NASCAR fan then. It's a cycling. It's a racing thing in
Drafting.
general. Yeah,
I said break wind though. I don't think that's right. When you're
I mean,
drafting,
it sounds right to me.
you're literally using the person in front of you to break the wind.
Yeah, that's why. Geese,
But you don't
that's
want
why
the
geese
person
fly
in
a
front of
V.
you. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that is.
Geese fly in a V because they break wind. So they don't want to be directly behind the other
They're
goose.
drafting. They're drafting off each other.
Okay.
They will. You'll see when it'll happen pretty soon. It's late August. When the geese start flying south, you'll see they'll switch off being the lead because that is the harder work.
All I'll say, as we shift off of goose talk, is that
you know why Canadian geese are so ornery and Canadians are so nice?
No.
Canada has collectively put all of their aggressive tendencies into their geese. That's what happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about the moose? Aren't those kind of aggressive?
The meese?
Yeah, the meese. I feel like I've seen videos of mooses being aggressive.
I'm not saying they can't be aggressive. In general, moose are not like super aggressive. They're just really dangerous because they're huge. They're really big. If they feel cornered and they come after you, you are going to get really hurt.
Because I think I didn't realize how big moose. It's going to bother me that I don't know the plural of moose. Is it moose? Is it like a deer? Deer is plural of deer?
It's meese.
Is it meese?
No.
You're messing with me. Because goose and geese. But
moose and meeson.
Okay. So I've seen videos of moose as Mises on TikTok.
I think it's moose.
And
honestly.
they're like towering over cars on the road. Like they're gigantic. I knew they were big, but until within the last year or so
it was Saucedo who gave up 5 runs, by the
Okay.
way. So it didn't start with a C.
It starts with a C sound. Sasa.
Is a C sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Cespedes.
A soft C sound, yes.
That means that even if I wasn't right, I was as close to being right as possible without actually being right.
Yeah, good job.
So if it were Stump Justin, I would give myself a half point.
Oh, would you?
Yeah.
Or would you give yourself negative points because the points are made up?
No, I would give myself a half point.
Oh, right.
I would give you negative points.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Daniel negative 2. But anyway, do you have any other thoughts on Mariners? We're at an all-time high. So I've already done the sensational thing of saying they're going to win the World Series, they're going to win the division.
Yeah,
blah,
which
blah,
is
blah.
really a bit much and making me feel uncomfortable because I am a little stitious.
All I will say right now is that I have been a fan of this team from the beginning. I never doubted them for a moment, not for a single second. I knew they would be this good.
And that is what Daniel and I have appreciated about you, Justin.
Thank you that I've really stuck with them.
You've just always been positive and a believer.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's move on.
My fingers are crossed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have parting shots on the Mariners? Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I do think right now, if anyone out there is prone to a little bit of inner self-reflection, is remember how frustrating average can be, because even when they were being very, very aggressively average, there was still enough positive that they weren't digging themselves a hole. And now we're seeing why that's important.
Andrew, can I talk to you real quick about the schedule?
Maybe.
Can I talk to you a little bit about what the Mariners have coming up on their schedule?
Yes, you absolutely can.
They have a 3-game series on the road against the White Sox.
Yeah.
That ends the road trip.
Yep.
They come home for a 3-game set against the Royals.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Another dumpster fire. Then they host a 3-game series against the A's. The biggest dumpster fire literally in the history of the major leagues. That's how they close out August. Then they go to New York and have a series against the Mets. Another dumpster fire.
The Mets are the reason that the Yankees aren't the worst team in New York.
And then they're going to play against the very average, although a little above 500 Reds before they go into a 4-game set against the Rays. And then the schedule gets a little tougher because they'll have to play they do have Angels and A's mixed in there, but they have Dodgers and Rangers and Astros and Rangers again to end the season. So, wow. So the last 9 games of the season are 3 games at Texas and then home for 3 against the Astros and home for 3 against the Rangers. So that last 9-game stretch, they really need to.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of really crappy teams that they're playing over the next month or so before they go into that last 9-game stretch against those teams. They really need to capitalize on the opportunities to beat these bad teams. Even though
the
they
other
are
thing
8-2 against the Astros. You know what? I'm glad they're going to play the Astros again. The Astros are bad.
The other thing they could do is do the frustrating thing, which is not look that awesome. Like, maybe even lose a series in there to one of those terrible teams, and then come back and sweep the Rangers. Like,
they've done that historically,
and
they've done that
it has
this
really
season.
felt like they play up to their competition often.
But they haven't done that lately.
That's true.
They've really been beating bad teams lately, and the series that they lost recently was against the Orioles, who, as I already mentioned, are the best team in the American League.
So I'm saying that not as a, like, that isn't even a thing I think will happen. It's a thing I'm like, it's the battered fan syndrome going, oh, geez.
Your BFS is flaring up.
Just wait for them to look terrible against the bad teams. But the point of that is that if they lose to the bad teams, I'm not going to completely lose hope because they can come right back and sweep the good teams.
Yeah, agreed. But I think we can all agree that the crap garbage that the Mariners are going to be playing against for the next couple of weeks, they need to come out with a monstrous amount of wins.
Yes.
Because
they may never lose again.
They were so average for so long this season that they, like you said, they didn't dig themselves a hole, and that's true because they've gotten out of the small hole that they didn't dig 6 feet under. It was more like they stuck the shovel in the ground a couple of times, and then they put the dirt back in, and then they dug it again, and then they put the dirt back in.
Literally been just going back and forth.
So you get to 6 feet under, and you're toast. You're done for the season. They didn't get that far. They're just a few shovels full at a time. But they were average for so long that even though they're the best team in the majors now, they still don't have the best team record. So they need to really capitalize on this next stretch of schedule.
Yep.
Let's move on to high school football.
Ooh. Do you want a local sports bed?
No, because we don't have anything to, like, nothing happened yet.
Yeah. It's been 2 days, though. I saw them.
Yeah.
I drove past a few football fields this week and saw people working hard.
So first official week of football practice. I think if you ask pretty much any high school football
your
player,
son skipped on church softball. It's really sad.
When that message came in from Daniel asking if Peyton would be able to play softball on Friday night, and I was like technically time-wise, could he have made it to a 6:15 game? Maybe. Because his practice, I think, got out at like 5:15. He probably could have made it, but he had practice Thursday afternoon, practice Friday morning, practice Friday afternoon, and then Saturday was practice and Thunder, which is the annual like amp up beginning of the year thing where they do Oklahoma drills.
Nice.
So they do that after practice.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So why didn't he play if he could get there?
If people don't know,
we needed Peyton.
and I'm sure that a lot of other schools have like similar like get you going traditions, and I don't know what they all are, but because my sons play Montesano football, I know this one, and I think it's really fun. They invite the parents and all the fans to come sit in the stands, and then they just pick groups of 3-on-3 to just run Oklahoma drills against each other. Everybody gets a chance to carry the ball. Everyone gets a chance to be a lead blocker. Everyone gets a chance to be a linebacker. Like, you rotate through, you play as a team for a few times, and it's like you don't really go full contact in practice, but before you go into the jamboree, it's good for you to have one full contact thing that you're not doing a lot, but you get a few hits in, and then you hope you escape it without injuries, and then you're ready for the season. You've had some full contact, and then it's also a chance for the kids to play in front of a crowd where people are cheering for them. It's really fun. They play loud music. They have a PA announcer. It's pretty cool experience.
You know what they should do? They should let the dads participate. Not against the kids.
Did you
not
hear
against the kids, but like they could totally get like 10 or so dads that are like, "Oh yeah, I'm still young."
Did you hear the part where I said you hope you escape without injuries?
And that would I think that would do it. That would be so much fun for the kids to see.
I saw a video trend on TikTok this week of, I guess this is something, I couldn't tell if this was like junior high or high school, but somewhere in that teen range, that they had a moms get to tackle the kids thing before the season starts. So they have like a big pad set up, and they get the kids in full pads, and they give the moms pads. And then the moms get one clean shot to just tackle the crap out of their sons. One of the moms speared her son in the ear hole. Like, it was one of those head whips back.
The problem I have with it sounds awesome, except that moms don't generally know how to tackle properly.
Oh, no, they do not. I can tell you from having watched several of these videos, they're real bad at it.
I mean, a ton of dads know how to tackle the way they were taught 30 years ago, which is also not a great way to tackle properly.
And not the way they teach tackling anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Which is why the dads shouldn't be tackling the kids.
That's a good point. Also, you always have the dad that's out there to prove something.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's legitimately, it would be hilarious and fun to have to include dads who wanted to participate in that.
Yeah.
I feel like you could get enough to have a few Oklahoma drills.
I know a handful who would do it. I am not one of them.
Well, no, obviously not.
Because even how hesitant I was to even play 4 games of softball this year for our church league team, because I was like, I don't know, I might hurt myself. But I didn't. I got through the portion of the season.
And we're so proud of you. Daniel rolled his ankle last Friday, but I don't think it was too bad.
Well, I told him he should use it as an excuse to get out of work, and he didn't do that. So, I mean,
I think
how bad could it be?
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure his work is sitting on a chair and talking to people about the PUD in Lewis County.
Daniel and I have always had this thing, though. Like,
he's at the fair.
Going back to rec sports, where for some reason, these sports that you don't get paid anything to do, but you actually, in fact, pay to play.
Yeah.
You get back out there. If you can walk, you can run.
Yeah, because you care. Because you're paying.
And your adrenaline carries you through.
Yeah.
The only time in the whole time that the Flag Football League existed, which I think was like maybe 5 or 6 years, something like that, I sprained ankles. I hyperextended my knee. I bought every brace imaginable. The only time I ever missed games was when I broke my finger on the knuckle in 5 places. And you know how I did that with all the physical things that happen in football? I did it pulling a flag. My finger got cut up on the person's shirt, so when I pulled down, it just bent backwards. Luckily, your mom was there. So I had a nurse on the sideline, and I got to go over to her and be like, nurse,
I think I broke myself.
do you think this is broken? And she looked at it and she was like, yeah, I think that's broken. So I had to go get it x-rayed, and they told me on the knuckle I broke it in 5 places. Oh, actually, you know what? It was this side. You can tell because it never quite healed right. Anyway, how did we get on this?
So why did you miss the game?
I missed a game because actually, you know what? What's funny, Andrew, is like in my head, I was like, oh, this is my left hand. I was playing quarterback.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is my left hand. I can still play.
It's not your throwing hand.
So I went back out there and I tried to take a snap. And when I received the snap, because everything's out of the shotgun, I received the snap and I was like, oh, nope, that's not going to work. And then
Never
Then I
mind.
pulled myself out of the game
Oh,
because I'm
yeah.
a wimp.
A wimp.
Yeah.
You
I
lack
forget how
dedication.
we got on this.
Glory days.
Yeah. But anyway.
There you go.
Great. Now Russia won't be able to listen to the show.
That's okay.
Okay, so anyway.
Their moonlander just crashed.
Moving. What?
Their moonlander just crashed.
Yeah, right. They went to the moon.
No, they crashed into the moon.
Oh, okay.
That happened like yesterday.
Interesting. Is there
Yep.
video of it? Is there video of
no
it
video.
that's more compelling than the video that NASA put out of when we supposedly, quote unquote, went to the moon? You know that NASA is an organization that 50% of what they do is propaganda and lies.
No.
Also, Andrew,
It's mostly just like radio transmissions.
in the 50s, NASA started exploring the deep sea. Then after doing it for a long time, they abruptly stopped and then set off a massive explosion in the deep sea.
Yeah.
So what did they find down there that they don't want the rest of us to know about?
Aliens.
Interesting. Let's talk about high school football.
Did we not? Oh, now we're going to talk about high school football.
So practice started this week. If you're a Montesano fan, you know about Thunder. I just told you about it. What we have coming up this Friday, not the official start of the season. That's on September 1st.
Okay.
Local teams will be participating in jamborees, though, which if you haven't been to a jamboree, it's essentially like a series of scrimmages. Teams take turns, 10 plays on offense, 10 plays on defense. You try to see how many times you can score. Then you switch teams, blah, blah. It's a lot of fun. It's fast-paced.
It's fun to watch.
It is.
Honestly.
Agreed. I enjoy the jamboree. I've taken my camera the last couple times and taken some photos, and just mostly as an excuse to be on the field so I can watch from the best view possible. But
have to justify that press pass.
The local teams from our core 4 schools will be participating in 2 different jamborees. Aberdeen, just as they did last year, will go to Ording, and they're going to be in a jamboree with Ording, Eatonville, and Onalaska. And Montesano always hosts the jamboree. Last year it was Elma, Hoquiam, and Rochester, and it looks like from the schedule, I couldn't find anything official, but it looks like from the schedule, Elma, Hoquiam, and Rochester will be there again. So if you want to go to a jamboree and see Montesano, Elma, and Hoquiam at Jack Rottle Field by Montesano High School at 6 o'clock this Friday, it's going to be a ton of fun.
That's a normal high school football time too. So if you like going to high school football games, that's a great way to start your season out.
It absolutely is. It's a good way to get yourself kind of familiar with which are the players to watch.
Even if you're not one of those teams fan, like if you're an Aberdeen fan and you can't, like if you don't travel to follow Aberdeen, but you go to all the home games, that's a great opportunity to get a look at local teams and enjoy a ton of football.
For sure. And for me, and I think anybody who considers themselves like a casual fan of local high school sports, you might not know in depth who's playing what position, because year over year you're always going to lose a bunch of players.
Yeah, and if you don't have a kid playing, it's hard to keep track.
Agreed. So if you're curious, you go to the jamboree, you watch the varsity teams, you go, okay, roster, that's the kid who's playing quarterback, that's the kid who's playing wide receiver, running back, all that stuff. You can kind of figure out who the players to watch for are. Also, you go and you're like, man, that number 55 kid from Montesano is just pancaking people left and right. Oh, look at the roster. That's Camden Taylor. That kind of stuff. So you'll know, you can get a feel for who to keep an eye on this year. That way, throughout the course of the year, most people can only watch one game a week.
Yeah.
So
and it's usually going to be their team.
Exactly. So you go into it knowing, who do I want to look for in this game. It's really difficult on a week like this to name an athlete of the week. Actually, before we do that, I will say, and I'll get your thoughts on this too, Andrew, because you've done some coaching as well. We have a really unpredictable league this year, I'd say. Like, typically, you kind of know going into a season who the best team or who the best two teams are, and you know that one team might be terrible. And I don't think you have that in the Evergreen 1A this year. You have Eatonville, who over the last few seasons, having come into the Evergreen 1A league, they've been really good. If not the best team, they've been one of the best teams every year. They lost a ton of seniors, like almost their whole starting lineup on both sides of the ball, with maybe a couple of exceptions, was seniors. So it's not to say that they don't have a bunch of juniors and sophomores that are going to step up in that role, but you don't really know who all of them are. It's a pretty similar situation in Montesano. There are more juniors who will step up who have been playing varsity, been starting on varsity. So there's going to be a lot more familiar names in Montesano.
That's one of the things that Daniel really likes about the Montesano program.
Yeah, you get guys who get in there for varsity action. There's a question mark that, they have a quarterback who hasn't started at quarterback for a full season. Jackson Wilson, he's had games at quarterback, but he hasn't had, the team for a full season yet. He's going into his senior season. You'll have a halfback, which I don't know what they settled on. I kind of expect it to be Tucker Eaton, which Tucker's really fast. It's a different type of running back than what Montesano's had, like Ethan Blundred, Isaiah Pierce, going back through some, they're like, bell cow kind of like really strong running backs, and Tucker's a speed guy. So it'll be different. It'll be interesting to see how, he's very capable of, busting off an 80-yard touchdown run, but it's going to be different from what we've seen the last few years.
Will they adjust their run? Will they adjust their play calling to reflect that, or is he going to be running the same runs but just as a speed person rather than a brute force person?
If I had to guess, I would say the plays will stay the same, but you might see, because they have
he might bounce them more.
Possibly.
Okay.
But also they have a really good fullback, Gabe Bodwell from Stumped Andrew, that was the starting fullback last year as well, who's really capable. So you might see a really heavy load on the fullback as well. So like you might see
pound the fullback and then run your speed back.
Exactly. Try to catch him with and this is all speculation. I don't know anything. I'm
granted,
kind of giving you an idea.
We don't think you know anything.
I really
Justin.
don't know much of anything at all, like in any way. Jackson Wilson, the quarterback, also very capable of running. We watched him do that last year in the action that he had in the Hoquiam game, and he even actually played as a sophomore a little bit, I believe, if I'm remembering that right. Anyway, so needless to say, I think Montesano is going to be good. I think they're going to be very good, but there's question marks there. You have an Elma team who has no head coach, and they
have two head coaches.
They don't have a head coach. They have two guys sharing the responsibility, which
sounds difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it works well, I have a ton of respect for both of those guys.
Agreed.
Like, that is a thing that I would not want to take on because it would be so difficult.
Right, because it takes the right kind of personalities and the right kind of relationship to make that work. How do you split it up? If you have, some kind of a disagreement, who's the ultimate decision maker there?
Yeah.
Do you have to go to the athletic director to break a tie?
Or do you have good enough understanding of each other to resolve that tie without having to go to somebody else to make a decision?
Exactly. So that could go either way.
Yeah,
it could
absolutely.
be great, or it could go poorly.
Yeah.
So I don't think you know what you have in Elma.
Right, and I want to be clear. I don't know these coaches.
Neither do I.
Just talking about the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in Elma, they have a very talented quarterback in Carter Studer coming back to run their offense. He passed really well last year from Stumped Andrew. And so there's another question mark. Like, they got pretty far down the road with a guy that was going to be their head coach, and then that fell through. So it was a little bit late in the game for Elma at that point to find another head coach. So they decided to go with this split responsibility. In Tenino, which Tenino's been really good the last couple of years. They had Kerry Nagel as their coach, I think 4 years there, really rebuilt the program that had not been very good and turned it into something that was excellent. Making state playoff appearances. They even had a state playoff win a couple years ago. And I think that they still have a good amount of talent in Tenino as well, but their coach quit like a month ago.
Wow.
Something around there. Like after the whole summer program was over, when you know that you only have like a week and a half to 2 weeks of practice to get your guys going once the season starts, their coach had, for whatever reason, he quit. And then what ended up happening eventually, they didn't all leave at once, but every other coach that coached with him on the team eventually quit as well.
Yeah. And that sucks. Like for the kids.
Yes.
That really sucks.
Agreed.
And there might have been, I don't know anything about that situation. There might have been really good reasons for the coach being like, look, I can't deal with this anymore because people like administration, all that kind of thing, it can be really difficult to deal with. I know that, but man, that sucks for the kids.
Yeah. Well, and this is a guy, like I said, who he had built this. He took over a program in Tenino that was not good, and he built it into something that was a state playoff contender, and a state playoff. They won a state playoff game, as I mentioned, and for him to have gotten to that point where he was like, I can't do this anymore. Knowing that he didn't,
did he not take another job? Is he not coaching anywhere else?
Not that I've heard of, but that's part of it is because there's not any jobs available this time. Like
right, because
the fact that there were
that's
two
not
jobs
the
available,
time when you hire coaches.
Yeah, in this league, the fact that there were two jobs available at that point of the summer is totally bonkers. It's a really weird scenario. So Tenino did replace him because they had to. They didn't have any assistant coaches who stuck around, and they needed a coach to come in, so they got a guy. The
fact that the assistant coaches left as well, makes me feel like the problem might be in the administration rather than with the coaches.
And as I was hearing it, the number kept going down. Like it was, 3 of the coaches stuck around, and then it was 2 of the coaches stuck around, and then it was 1, and then all of a sudden it was 0. And I don't know all the factors, so I won't pretend to know all the factors of why that happened. But it seems like this guy who they hired named Darren Tinnerstedt, he was the offensive coordinator at Capital. He does have head coaching experience from Seaholm and also from being an interim coach at Capital for 1 year. I think they were really lucky to be able to find a guy with that kind of a resume to come in and take over the program. But he also runs an offense and a defense that's so different from what Tenino does that I will be curious to see, is he going to come in and try to run a variation of what was already there? Because he doesn't have the coaches that taught it.
Do you pull in like the offensive, defensive captains and be like, okay, guys, so what plays do you know? Like, what should I call here?
I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see how much they look like they did last year.
Yeah.
Because the offense that Nagel ran was it wasn't typical. Okay. It was a very specifically Tenino offense. I think it's an old school offense, really.
Okay.
But it was very specific to them, and it's not like what the other teams in the league run. So the idea of being able to have somebody to come in and teach that specific system is kind of a far-fetched idea.
That makes me think that they won't. That they'll just be running something more general.
So I think that's the big question is, would it be easier to, I talked to a friend of mine who used to be an offensive coordinator, and he was like, I could install a simple offense in 2 weeks. So you can do it. He even said, like, it's not ideal, like it's not what I would want to do, but I could do it.
Yeah.
So it is possible to, if you have a lot of experience in offensive coaching, to install an offense in that amount of time, but it would be a difficult task to undertake. So that
And it would also be difficult to adjust that off. Like, it would be easier to stop that offense
Right.
as a defensive coach looking at that team coming in. You'd be like, oh, this is a new coach. They're running this super basic system. We can deal with that.
Yeah. So then there's your question mark in Tenino. Is like, I feel like had everything gone into this season with the same coaching staff, you probably would expect Tenino to be up near the top of the league again, even though they lost a lot of talent too. Then that brings us to Hoquiam. And you only have to go back a couple years to find a Hoquiam that's a total dumpster fire, that looks incapable of winning. Then over the course of the last couple seasons, they've built that program into something a lot more competitive. You know, they won a couple games last year, and going into this season, the expectations for Hoquiam with Jeremy McMillan, you know, still there as head coach, I think you have to be in the expectation of more like middle of the league. So I don't think there's a clear, here's the best team, here's the worst team, here's how it's going to lay out. And, you know, I was texting with a friend of mine that is a fan of a different team in our league, just trying to get an idea of what he thought it was going to be like this season. And he's like, well, I'm putting out a prediction of here's how I think that the league is going to lay out. And so he sent me his prediction of what he thinks the league standings are going to be. And I looked at it and I was like, all of that makes a ton of sense. I could also see that being completely wrong. Like, we could be looking at this a couple months down the road and realizing that all 5 of the spots were incorrect. It's totally crazy to me. To me, the Evergreen 1A football league this year, totally up in the air.
Well, that's good. For anyone who isn't a diehard fan of one specific team, that's definitely good. But even if you're just a little, like, you're like, I root for Aberdeen, but I'm not living and dying with Aberdeen. I live a long way away. I'm not involved in the program at all. It's exciting when anybody has a chance at the beginning of the season.
Agreed, except that this season in particular, I would really like it if I could look at our Montesano team.
We know that you ride or die with Montesano, Justin. That's fair.
Well,
you don't count as one of the people that I was talking about.
Specifically, in my son's senior season, less stress would be better for me. So if I could look at it and not feel so stressed out about how things are going to shake out, it would be better. And I still think if I had to pick a team, and even if I put my bias aside, I feel like I would pick Montesano to win the league. But I'm not going to feel like it's Montesano and then 3 spaces down you have the next team. I'm going to feel like the other teams that are capable of doing it are right there with them.
And that's before the season. As we get into the season, that will probably change. We'll probably be like, wow, this team's terrible.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So that leads us to the last thing that we have to do.
Probably Tenino.
The worst team in the league. See, and that, honestly, you know,
I wasn't sure if I wanted to take a shot or not, but I will.
I would like Tenino to be in last place. But they actually have because I hate Tenino. But they have a lot of talent. Like, they lost a lot, but they have a lot of talent coming back. The cupboard isn't bare, is the way that it was put to me.
Yeah. So
me speculating that they're going to be bad is entirely because of the coaching situation.
If they can, it's the whole the traditional conversation about whether it's more about the Jimmies and Joes or the X's and O's. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get an extreme example of that controversy in Tenino because the X's and O's aren't gonna be very. A new coach coming in is not going to be able to install the best X's and O's that he can. Mm-hmm. It's going to be down to the Jimmies and Joes. If they're talented enough, then they might be able to overcome not having all of the advantages of excellent coaching throughout a on-off season.
Agreed. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. Maybe some of that will come to light a little bit during the Jamboree, and then as the season gets going, we will definitely start to know more. For now, the last thing we have to do is name an athlete of the week. This becomes difficult
when there's
when
not a lot of
things
happening.
I didn't have anybody submit any information about soccer teams or Junior Olympics or anything that I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem like much of
Not
anything
much is going on.
actual competition happened.
There's like women's World Cup soccer.
That doesn't really help us for local
No,
athletes.
it doesn't.
No, not at all.
There's
So
preseason NFL.
there was a few things that happened. One is we know that Joel DeBlanco had a workout with the Houston Texans
All right.
of the NFL.
Is that all we know?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I even texted someone I know who knows Joel, and I was like, "Hey, can you tell me if anything good or anything happened? Can you hear anything?" And I didn't get any response with information. I got a response, but just not a "Hey, here's what happened." It was I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
And even as I looked up, news sources trying to figure out how the tryout went, couldn't find anything. But I can confirm through multiple sources, including Twitter. Like 3 different reporters said on Twitter that Joel DeBlanco tried out with the Texans. So I know it happened. Last week we did here's a player to watch this upcoming high school football season. So I thought it would be fun we have one more week to do that, and then we have the Jamboree. So we'll have something from the Jamboree. I can pretty much guarantee it. So I thought it would be fun to do one more week of here's the player to watch. So I started looking at all league teams from last year, refreshing my memory on who were the players from last year who are coming back this year. And as I was looking at it, I was reminded there's a player for Aberdeen who was all league first team on both sides of the ball. He was a junior. He's coming in as a senior this year, and he's going to be playing for the Bobcats. He's an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. He's massive. His name's Jabron Brooks. So that was my first thought was for Aberdeen, you got a guy who's returning. He has a college offer from Pacific University already. I tried to look on his Twitter to see if there was more, but I think that's the only one. I mean, entering his senior year, it's not weird that you might only have one college offer. But he was returning all league first team offense and defense. In a way, I kind of thought, as I was then looking a little bit more at Aberdeen, then I was remembering Aiden Watkins is coming back. And Aiden, even on a team that was just stacked with guys to carry the ball out of the backfield, found a way to have a big impact on offense last year, carrying the ball, catching the ball. He had a couple of huge games. He won Athlete of the Week on our show at least once. So Aiden, to me, is another kid that I think that certainly is a player to watch for Aberdeen. Paul Baltazar, also on the offensive and defensive line. He missed some games last year with an ankle injury for Aberdeen, but also going into his senior season, I think there's a lot of really high hopes for Paul. And I was trying to figure out, between these different guys, Marcus Hale popped into my head. I believe Nolan Cook is another kid who's coming back that played a lot for them last year. There's a lot of guys for Aberdeen specifically that I realize have experience, have had an impact on the field. There's only one guy who was first team all league, and he got it on both sides of the ball, and that was Jabron. So I was leaning.
Jabron is a beast.
He is a beast. So I was leaning towards naming Jabron Athlete of the Week and saying, just continuing our trend of here's a player to watch. Keep your eye on this guy. Did you have any thoughts or anybody else you want to throw in the ring?
No.
Okay.
I actually I like the idea of Jabron because also Jabron playing offensive and defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It's admittedly, if you just got sacks, if you just rack up sacks, then you can get Athlete of the Week. But especially on offensive line, it's tough to get enough attention to there's not a stat that gets our attention week to week to get Athlete of the Week as an offensive lineman. But Jabron is a monster, and I think it's a good opportunity to recognize him.
Okay. So
I like that idea.
So I'm going to say, with a special nod to Aiden Watkins, who I think is going to have a phenomenal year for Aberdeen, let's name Jabron Brooks of Aberdeen High School our only... Oh, we don't have a sponsor. Our scrimmage. I did the Daniel thing. I almost called it.
Good job.
We're going to name Jabron Brooks our Athlete of the Week.
The Scrimmage Athlete of the Week. Congratulations, Jabron.
we have something in the works that I'm really hoping is going to turn into a thing, and I think we're going to have hopefully another sponsor soon. Daniel's been working on that really hard. So,
in spite of not being
on
with us anymore this week,
yeah,
he has been working very hard behind the scenes.
Is no longer with us today, but actually, if Daniel were here, he would say, if you would like to support local sports and you would like to support what we do, if you have a small business or you know of a small business, please sponsor us or encourage your local businesses to sponsor us.
Get in touch with us.
You can email us, thescrimmage@gmail.com. You can hit us up on any of our socials, and we always check those and respond. Well, I should say I always check those and respond to those. But I think that the important thing to remember is that by sponsoring this show, because we exist to recognize local athletes for their effort and achievements. So I love the fact that we still have a local newspaper that still, even though it hasn't been what it was in previous years, we still have a local newspaper here that covers local sports. We still have a radio station that broadcasts games. Football, basketball, even sometimes baseball. We learned this year in the playoffs. So we have people who cover the games. We try to have a secondary impact here by breaking down the games, discussing the athletes, giving them another platform to be recognized. So if you're considering sponsoring us, don't just look at it as, we're sponsoring these guys who have this podcast. Look at it as a way to support local sports in Grays Harbor and Pacific counties by supporting those who support the sports. And that's really all we're trying to do. None of us are trying to get rich by doing this. We just want to be able to continue doing it so that the kids can be recognized for all the effort they put into what they achieve. Sound good? Did I do a good Daniel Hargrove thing?
I think you did it better.
Wow.
I feel like he stutters more when he does it.
Wow. Thank you. I got a golf clap from Hannah. You know what? Hannah gives me so little praise and affirmation that that felt really good. I'm just saying. That was definitely the highlight of my day so far. So anyway, Jabron Brooks, Athlete of the Week.
Congratulations, Jabron.
If you want to sponsor us, reach out. I think that's going to do it for our show today. Andrew, do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else to
Hannah,
add.
do you have anything? Nope. Okay. So that's going to do it for our show today. So for our absentee co-host, Daniel Hargrove, who is no longer with us today, and my trusty producer, Andrew, in the Coug Zone, gross. I'm Justin Damashevitz, and you've been listening to The Scrimmage. Probably, hopefully.
I can't believe I let you get away with giving your own non-nickname.